Feeling like taking a coffee break? So do I. What we could do now is talk about this new feature we have in Java 14 called the switch expression. Extremely useful, will much improve the way you are going to write your switches. Let us see that. Switch expression is really some old stuff. It was introduced back in the days of the C language in the 1970s and was carried over to all the modern languages. Java have them from the very beginning. A switch expression is really weird, and then you have a block of code with those cases in them, and in fact those cases are just behaving like go-tos, right? Now, I remember in the very first day I learned programming, the people who taught me told me never use go-tos in your code. Well, a switch is just like a set of go-tos. So you could think, don't use switches in your code, but it's still very useful because instead of having a bunch of if, that, and then else if, this something else, and else if, having a switch is sometimes much more comfortable to deal with. Plus, you can switch over integers, that's a fact, but also over string, which is very useful, and you can also switch over enumerated value, which is also very useful. But there are many flaws in the design of switch expression that make them really painful and very, very error prone. This fallback stuff is really something you don't want to have. See, for instance, on this example, we have a very classical switch. Day is an enumeration with the day of the week. By the way, this is the example you will find everywhere, so yes, let's carry on with it. You have this switch block of code that case Monday, Tuesday, yes, this is a weekday, so you return true. And here we can see that we're using this fallback stuff, right? Because if the day is a Monday, it will branch on the Monday case, but if it's Wednesday, it will branch on the Wednesday case, and it will execute, in fact, the Thursday and Friday cases also. So you know that if you want to break out of a case branch, you need to think about putting the break. And at one point or another, we all know that sometimes you will forget to put this break, and then the fall through stuff will activate and you will end up with an ugly bug in your code. And this is just a mess. This is something that we don't want to do. Plus, despite the fact that this enumeration is known, we have only Monday to Sunday, the compiler is not able to see that in fact we've exhausted all the values of the enumeration. We still need to make the compiler happy but putting this throw new blah 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 exception, whatever, just because the compiler is itself kind of not smart enough, to say the least. So this is the code that we're going to run to show that this example is working. Let us make sure that we are running Java 14, very important. Let us just compile this code and then run it, and we can see that yes, Monday is the day of week, so we are happy. All right, now let me just show you how we can handle that with Java 14. Java 14 keeps the general syntax of the switch expression. We still have the case branches, but instead of having goto-like behavior, case points to a block of code that can produce a value. And here is the syntax. We just replace this column by this arrow-like stuff and say that in the case we have Monday, we are going to return true, right? And second major difference, this switch expression is able to produce a value. So this true value will in fact be returned by the switch. This syntax kind of looks like the syntax of the lambda expression, but it's not a lambda expression. It's really something that is particular to the switch case. So let me copy paste that real quick for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. See, we do not have any fall through anymore. And for Saturday, it's going to be false. And now we can get rid of the throw exception, because one new thing also is that now the compiler is able to see that we've exhausted all the enumerated type in the day enumeration. So let us return this is day of week boolean. And now we need to be a little careful because this switch is not a statement anymore, it's not an expression, so you need to add this semicolon after it. If not, you will have a compiler error. Let us compile this code, run it with the same example, and of course we have the same value that is produced. Let us suppose that we forgot one piece of the enumerated value. I'm going to show you what's going to happen. You can see that in that case, the compiler is able to detect that and will give an error message saying that yes, the switch expression does not cover all the possible input values, in that case all the values of the enumeration, which is really great. I love it. And by the way, for Saturday and Sunday it should really be false, so let me fix that real quick. And in fact, we can also write the cases in that way, saying that for the case Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, then we need to return true. For Saturday and Sunday, we return false, and now we can get rid of all this code. Great. Let us compile that and run it, and it's still, of course, running properly. So, 3 things here. First, a switch is now an expression. It can produce a value. You need to add some returns in it. You don't need to use the return keyword, and we're going to see that in a minute, by the way. You just put this arrow-like structure that looks like a lambda expression. And in the case you have several behaviors for the same branch, then you can just put your different values separated by commas, and then this arrow-like stuff to return the value common to all those branches. Suppose now that you need to put several lines in a statement after this little arrow. In fact, after this little arrow you have a block of code, so you can just put a block between curly braces. Let me show you how it's working. So, curly braces. And here, I would probably be tempted to put return true, right? Because this is probably the kind of block of code that would be natural to put, return true. And let me just print, yes, that the evaluation of this day is just true. This is what I'm currently evaluating. Let me compile that. And here you can see that the compiler is not too happy with my return true. It tells me attempt to return out of a switch expression, and this is a compiler error. Let me show you what's going on exactly. Let me fix this typo real quick. And in fact, you can see that this return true is kind of ambiguous, because I have also a return here, which is the return of the method. So if I was in a regular switch, like previous syntax, this return would not be the return of that block, the block that is just after this arrow. It would be the return of the method. And the problem is that here, am I telling that I need to return true from that block or from the method? There is an ambiguity here. So that's the reason why the compiler was not happy. So the real syntax, in fact, is not to put the return keyword there, but to put a yield keyword. We are going to say that this switch expression is going to yield a result, and this result is going to be true. And now there is no more ambiguity anymore. This yield is the yield of the switch expression, so I'm really exiting the switch expression with the true value. Great. Now, for those of you who are nostalgic about the old syntax, we also have something that really looks like the old syntax a little more. Let me put this switch is day of week in a boolean. Switch is still something that returns a result. I can still yield the result without a block and by relying on this fallback stuff. So if I just put yield true instead of return, this syntax is also valid. You can also use it in your code. I wouldn't advertise it too much because I don't think it's as readable as the previous one, but if you're more comfortable with this one, then it's okay, you can use it. One last word, switch expressions are a regular feature of the Java platform, so now we have them forever. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.